With Empedocles, we began to see the universe from a completely different perspective. But is this universe really driven by love, hate, and the elements, or is there a greater order at play? Now, we are heading to Athens. Before us stands a philosopher who claimed that the universe is governed by intellect, Anaxagoras. Atlas, did Anaxagoras truly believe that the universe had a mind?
Yes, and quite strongly at that. According to Anaxagoras, the order in the universe can never be a coincidence. Behind everything, there is an infinite mind he called Nous. It is this mind that governs all movements and transformations in the universe.
Is this mind a god in the sense that we know?
No, not exactly. Nous is not a god that intervenes in the universe from the outside. It is a regulating force within the universe itself. Anaxagoras, in a sense, sees the universe as intelligent.
So, for Anaxagoras, is nature a conscious being?
We could say it's somewhat like that. The order, harmony, and chaos we see in nature are actually signs of this infinite mind. According to him, there is no such thing as coincidence. Everything happens within the conscious order of the mind.
That's really interesting, and also a bit unsettling. Because if the universe has a mind that knows and governs everything, does it also control our lives?
So to find the answer to this question, we need to explore Anaxagoras' concept of mind more deeply.
All right, Atlas. Let's dig a bit deeper into this idea of the universe's intelligence. What exactly is the nous that Anaxagoras talks about?
Nous means mind in Greek. But the way Anaxagoras uses it, nous is much more than that. It is the fundamental force that initiates, directs, and organizes the movement of the universe. An intelligent principle that brings the universe from chaos to order.
So, does that mean everything in the universe acts according to a conscious plan?
Yes, Anaxagoras says that nothing in the universe happens by chance. A seed becoming a tree, the rotation of the planets, the changing of the seasons. All of these are the work of this infinite mind.
So, can we say that the force governing the universe is somewhat perfectionist?
Absolutely. According to Anaxagoras, this mind arranges everything in the best and most correct way. And interestingly, every being within the universe is actually a part of this mind.
Are we humans also a part of this mind?
Yes, we are also small reflections of it. But here's Anaxagoras' real revolution. The human mind is a small model of the great mind in the universe. So, we can actually understand the universe. Because within us, there is a mind that reflects the order of the universe.
Now I'm really excited. Because according to what Anaxagoras says, it's enough to understand ourselves in order to understand the universe.
That's exactly right. Now, to discover the mind of the universe, we're going to go a little deeper.
Now things are getting a bit clearer in my mind. According to Anaxagoras, the universe is governed by a mind, okay? But how did this universe begin? How does Anaxagoras explain this?
According to Anaxagoras, in the beginning, everything was in a state of chaos. Infinitely small particles were in an infinite confusion. At this point, Nous, that is, the mind of the universe, stepped in and began to organize everything.
Did Anaxagoras think the universe always existed?
Yes. The universe is infinite, but it was disordered at the beginning. Anaxagoras says that the universe was not created out of nothing, but was only organized by the mind.
Wait a second. Doesn't this sound a bit like the idea of the Big Bang in modern physics?
Not exactly, but there is a similar logic. According to Anaxagoras, the universe was first a mixture of chaotic particles. Then Nous combined these particles in a conscious order. From this combination, planets, stars, and living beings emerged.
So, are these tiny particles infinite in number?
Yes. According to Anaxagoras, the universe is made up of infinitely small particles. In fact, everything exists within everything else. The differences we see are only the result of the mind arranging the particles.
This is really profound and a bit dizzying. We keep oscillating between infinite chaos and infinite order.
Yes, exactly as Anaxagoras intended, because the universe itself is based on such a tension. The universe is an infinite balance between chaos and order.
Atlas Anaxagoras explains the order of the universe with the mind, okay? So what about the sun, the moon, and the stars? Are they ruled by gods too, or is it the mind again?
This is exactly the issue that caused trouble for Anaxagoras in Athens. According to him, the sun, the moon, and the stars are not divine beings. On the contrary, they are celestial bodies made up of materials like stone, earth, and fire.
So, did Anaxagoras call the sun a stone?
Yes, in fact, he described the sun as a massive stone burning like an ember. As for the moon, it was a mass made of rock and earth that had broken off from the world.
So how did the Athenians react to this?
As you might guess, they didn't react well at all. Anaxagoras' ideas conflicted with the religious beliefs of that time, and he was eventually accused of impiety.
So we can say that Anaxagoras acted quite bravely for the sake of science, right?
Absolutely. In fact, Anaxagoras is considered one of the figures who laid the foundations of modern science, because he tried to explain the celestial bodies not with supernatural forces, but with reason.
Now I'm getting a bit worried, Atlas. Is doing philosophy really such a dangerous business?
It seems so, because telling the truth has always required courage throughout history. We're still talking about Anaxagoras today because he showed that courage.
Atlas, now let's elaborate a bit on the situation in Athens. Anaxagoras came to Athens, put forward his scientific ideas, but I guess he also got a bit involved in politics here, didn't he?
Yes, Anaxagoras was not just a philosopher in Athens. He was also a close friend of Pericles, one of the most influential politicians of the time. Pericles was quite influenced by Anaxagoras' ideas.
So can we say that Athenian politics was being shaped by philosophy?
Absolutely. In fact, during Athens' golden age, philosophy and politics were intertwined. Anaxagoras' concept of reason also influenced the Athenians' understanding of democracy, because democracy was based on the idea that people could make the right decisions by using their reason.
So could Anaxagoras' friendship with Pericles have harmed him? I mean, isn't it dangerous for philosophy and politics to be so closely intertwined?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Anaxagoras' closeness to Pericles made him a political target. His opponents used Anaxagoras' scientific ideas to accuse him of impiety and caused him to be put on trial.
I guess whenever philosophers get involved with politics throughout history, they end up in trouble.
You're right, because philosophy can change the way people think, and that has always been considered dangerous. What happened to Anaxagoras is exactly an example of this.
Now let's talk a bit about this trial. Why was Anaxagoras put on trial, and was he really guilty?
When Anaxagoras claimed that celestial bodies like the sun and the moon, which were considered sacred, were actually just made of stone, earth, and fire, the Athenians accused him of insulting the gods. According to him, these bodies were not gods, but natural entities.
So was Anaxagoras' only crime telling the truth?
Unfortunately, yes. But at that time, even truths could be considered crimes if they went against the beliefs of society. There were also political reasons behind Anaxagoras' trial. Pericles' rivals were using the philosopher's views to attack Pericles.
What did Anaxagoras say in court? Did he renounce his ideas?
Never. He openly defended his views in court and did not back down. As a result, even the death penalty was considered for him. However, thanks to the efforts of his friend Pericles, his sentence was commuted to exile.
I guess this incident shows both the power and the risk of philosophy. Taking risks for our ideas truly takes courage.
Absolutely. The story of Anaxagoras shows us this. It is not easy to speak the truth, but those who speak the truth are never forgotten in history.
So perhaps one of the most important lessons Anaxagoras gives us is to remind us that philosophy is not just about thinking, but also about having the courage to act. Atlas, Anaxagoras' trial story really moved me. But now what I'm curious about is this. What did Anaxagoras think about knowledge? He says the universe is governed by reason, but how can we understand this reason?
This is exactly where the originality of Anaxagoras' philosophy comes to light. According to him, true knowledge is obtained not through the senses, but through reason. Our senses can deceive us, but reason can understand the true order of the universe.
So should we trust our minds rather than our eyes?
Absolutely. Anaxagoras says that the senses only perceive appearances. For example, we see a small point of light in the sky, but thanks to reason, we understand that it is actually a giant star. True knowledge is only possible through the analyses of reason.
In that case, Anaxagoras is a bit like Plato, isn't he? Because Plato also values reason.
Yes, Plato was quite influenced by Anaxagoras. Anaxagoras was one of the first philosophers to emphasize reason as the source of true knowledge. In this respect, he also deeply influenced later philosophies.
I guess what Anaxagoras is telling us is this. If our eyes are open but our minds are closed, we actually see nothing.
Exactly right. Anaxagoras was inviting us to use our reason and not to be content with just the visible part of the world.
Now let's move on to a slightly different topic. According to Anaxagoras, reason governs the universe. We understand that. But does this reason also govern humans? If so, then where does freedom fit in?
Now this is truly an important question. According to Anaxagoras, the mind of the universe does not directly govern humans. On the contrary, it gives humans the ability to make free choices by using their own reason.
So the reason that governs the universe doesn't take away our freedom?
On the contrary, it is thanks to reason that humans become free, because a person who uses their reason understands the laws of nature and acts accordingly. Freedom comes from understanding the universe by using our reason and acting in accordance with it.
So, in that case, is Anaxagoras' reason actually our friend?
Yes, and in fact, it is our greatest friend. By using our reason, we understand nature, and in this way we become free within it. Anaxagoras says that instead of blindly submitting to the universe, it is possible to understand it with reason and thus become free.
I think Anaxagoras is telling us this. Freedom means being able to look at the world using our reason and thus being able to live in harmony with the universe.
Absolutely. Reason and freedom are complementary concepts in Anaxagoras' philosophy, and this is one of his most valuable legacies.
Now we've come to this point. Anaxagoras' ideas were truly revolutionary. But what is the impact of these ideas on our present day? What exactly did Anaxagoras leave us?
Anaxagoras' greatest legacy is this. He began to explain the universe not through supernatural forces but through reason and observation. He established the fundamental logic of science. The philosophers and scientists who came after him always advanced by building on the foundation he laid.
So, can Anaxagoras be considered the father of modern science as well?
Absolutely. Anaxagoras' legacy is the foundation of scientific thought. He showed that the universe is comprehensible and that the mysteries of nature can be solved through reason and observation.
So, how did later philosophers make use of this legacy?
The philosophers who came after Anaxagoras, especially Democritus and later Aristotle, developed his perspective on the universe and laid the foundations of the natural sciences. The first steps of modern science came from Anaxagoras' emphasis on reason and observation.
I guess we owe a debt of gratitude to Anaxagoras, because thanks to science, our lives today have become better and more understandable.
Yes, and in doing so, he showed great courage. Anaxagoras showed us that doing philosophy is not just about thinking, but also about taking risks.
Anaxagoras taught us that the universe is governed by reason. But I still have this question in my mind. If the universe is governed by reason, then what is matter? What are the fundamental building blocks of the universe?
And to answer this question, a new philosopher steps onto the stage, Democritus. Anaxagoras had talked about infinitely small parts, but he hadn't explained them clearly. Democritus, on the other hand, said what these parts were: atoms.
Atoms? Did he really mean the atoms as we understand them today?
Yes, surprisingly, Democritus said that matter is made up of infinitely small, indivisible particles. The name of these particles in Greek is atomos, which means indivisible. According to Democritus, everything is a combination of these atoms and the void.
So, after Anaxagoras, does Democritus place matter on a clearer and more scientific foundation?
Absolutely. Anaxagoras had explained to us the order and intellect in the universe. Democritus, on the other hand, will reveal the true nature of matter. With the atomic theory, he will take philosophy and science to a whole new level.
So now, in our philosophical journey, we are moving on to a new stage and stepping into the mysterious world of atoms.
Exactly, Marina. Philosophy is preparing to take us into the infinitely small worlds. The path of reason that Anaxagoras paved will lead us to the magical world of atoms. Now let's set out toward Democritus' philosophy to meet the universe's invisible tiny particles. Because philosophy always continues with the next big question.